It is now in order to consider amendment number 87, printed in Part F of House Report 118-216. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 87, printed in Part F of House Report number 118-216, offered by Mr. Massie of Kentucky.
Pursuant to House Resolution 723, the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massie, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of my amendment, which states in part that none of the funds made available by this act may be used to issue any new rule related to, 1, regarding the number of owners of an animal for the purpose of custom slaughter exemption of the Food Safety and Inspection Service, 2, limiting the persons that may own an animal, and 3, requiring custom operators to keep records. My amendment simply states that no funds in this bill can be used to create new rules and regulations related to custom slaughter exemption, limiting the number of people who may own an animal or placing additional record-keeping burdens on custom slaughter exemption. And I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully disagree with my colleague's characterization of this amendment that it changes permanent law. In fact, all it does is it limits the spending that can be used to promulgate any new rules, and its only period is for the extent of a year, the next fiscal year. In fact, were it changing permanent law, we would not have allowed it as an amendment to this bill. I serve on the Rules Committee, and we vet hundreds of amendments for this very constraint, and this is not one of the amendments that changes permanent law. If I could change permanent law, would I change permanent law? You're sure right that I would, and we'll try that in the Farm Bill, but we can't change permanent law on an appropriations bill. The reason I've introduced this amendment is I found on the USDA website, they haven't done the rule yet, but they're thinking about doing a rule to limit how many families could share an animal. Listen, there are 4 meat packers that control over 80% of the meat that's processed in the United States. Our president himself said it from that very podium during his State of the Union speech. And it's a problem, we all know it. There's one exemption that allows people to get out from under the thumb of the multinational corporations that process most of the meat in this country. And that is the custom slaughter exemption that allows somebody who owns an animal to have it processed for themselves. It seems somewhat ridiculous that the USDA thinks they have the power to say 2 families can't share that animal. Yet that's what they're proposing in a PowerPoint slide on their website. My amendment is simple. It says we're not going to allow the USDA to promulgate a rule that keeps families from getting healthy meat from their local farmer. And with that, I urge adoption of my amendment, and I yield back.
The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Kentucky. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.